Uh, Hello, everyone.
Are you okay, Daniel? Is something wrong?
I don't know, Martin. How's your week been?
Um, that's yeah. I mean, it's been a week. That's for sure. We have had a
Did
week.
did did I sum it up pretty accurately there?
I think you did, and I think it's probably a good week for our PASSCast episode that we've got in store, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think it would be because this week, uh, lockdown not helping it has sucked.
Yep.
It just sucks. This
Mm,
week sucks.
yeah. No, it's definitely been a bit of a rough week, I suppose. We haven't particularly had a good week with assessments starting to come out and hitting that sort of, I guess, really critical kind of point in the semester. And then on top of that, we had lockdown to come in and make fun of us all together and I guess throw a spanner in the works yet again, huh?
Yeah, and it's very, very convenient timing because it was like, almost a year academically ago that we were like announced that we were going online for
Mm.
the rest of the trimester and for the foreseeable future, and it was just like it was not great.
Yeah, and I
It
think,
was the timing couldn't have been worse, to be honest. It's just been very reminiscent this week of, oh God, this is going to end right. Even though we know it's only 3 days,
mm,
in
no,
theory
it
it could be
was.
longer, and it's just like, really.
Yeah, it was very much. I think this time last year we were all kind of like not sure what COVID was gonna do, and then we were all frustrated, frantically panicking to try and get everything online and move everything.
I like the way you were gonna say frustrated and
I
then
mean,
stopped, but no, it was very
frustrated. It
frustrating.
was, but it was more a frantic thing because I think our leaders were very good at moving past online. So I don't think anyone was, well, maybe frustrated with the fact that we didn't get the face to face, but we were pretty, I guess, frantic in trying to do it as streamlined as possible, so students didn't really lose, I guess, the pass experience that we tried to have. And I think at the end of the day, it worked out really well, and we delivered a very good online session. And again, this week we've had Hillary, if you're watching, out there tirelessly planning sessions and tirelessly moving everything online with Jackie and adding additional sessions so our Brisbane students wouldn't feel left out. And it's just such a rush, eh? So,
Yeah, it's been a rush. Like yesterday, my phone was going off with Teams notifications of how hard Jackie and Hillary and the rest of the team were working to make sure we could get things not going to
mm.
hell. So kudos to everyone for pulling through, because yeah. Today's usually my relaxation day. I end up having to work half the day, and that was still just like, wow, lots going on.
So, what would you like to talk about today, then, Daniel?
Um, well, I don't know. We kind of promised people that we'd have a guest on, didn't we?
We did. Would you like to tell us a little bit about our special guest?
To be honest, I don't know much about Shay.
You don't.
She's a bit of an enigma to me. She's just this
Mm.
really happy-go-lucky, amazing person that I know that every time I've been around her, or like when we're at training,
Mm-hmm.
people were doing mocks, and she always had something really insightful to say that even I sat there and was like, why didn't I think of that? Like
Mm.
that was really cool. How did I miss that?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think Shay is definitely one of the better pass leaders we could probably have for this episode. So just as a context for everyone, today we're going to be talking about census date for starters because it is week 4 and census date is on Sunday, which I guess is also
And
fitting, Daniel, because you'd also have a story after yesterday to be able to share. But we're
well,
also
yes, but I also have a story from last year to share, which is why I've
ah
fortunately, or kind of jokingly, nicknamed this week Mental Breakdown Week as
oh
well,
no,
because
but
census date can be tough,
mm,
and it will potentially be hard on people. So that's why we've promoted this session, as it will be a real talk about the shit gets hard.
You know what else is quite hard for people, I think? Trying to
What-
figure out what their places at uni and where they succeed and how to actually make the most out of uni and I guess really find your groove, which is why I'm really keen to have Shay. And I don't really want to talk about her too much because I think we could be just better suited with having her discuss her experiences herself. So what do you reckon if we transition and we say hi to our lovely guest Shay?
We can do that.
We
We can
could.
definitely do that. We were gonna have a really fun transition screen, but it kind of blew up in our faces because neither Martin or I were really mentally prepared to do it. But we were gonna just put we were to transition to Shay. We were gonna say, and now here's a word from our sponsors, and then just put a static image of Dan from last week up on the screen while we prepped Shay to come in.
But on
But
that note,
neither of us had a picture of Dan.
no, we do not. We need to get one. On that note, good evening, Shay. How are you?
Hi, I am good. I'm surprisingly in a pretty chipper mood.
Oh,
So,
that's
really
great. We'd love to hear it. So,
We're
Shay,
the doom and gloom. You're the sunshine.
I mean, look at her face. It just radiates positivity and lively energy. You just love to have that sort of attitude and that sort of, I guess, radiance. It's incredible. Thank you for coming on, Shay.
Thanks,
We're
guys.
really happy to have you.
Thanks for inviting me. I'm happy to come in and have a chat with you guys. It's different than watching you for once. I get to be on the other side.
Yeah, no, it's great. That's why I love having these guests on because it's just so nice to have Pass leaders share their experience and not just watch what we're talking about, but they also get to be involved. So it's such a nice like group project that we all get to do. So I love that. So Shay, I guess my first question to you would be, who are you? For everyone watching, who are you?
I feel like I should have got sent these before. Like,
No.
all right,
Totally,
where do
totally,
I start?
totally improv, totally off the top of your head. That's how we do it. There's no
All
preparation.
right.
Yeah.
Who am I? Okay, well, I think at least talking within the world of PASS and Griffith and everything like that, I'll start with that. That's probably a bit easier. I would say that I am a Bachelor of Biomedical Science student. I'm in my final year somehow. I'm also a mature age student. And like when you see those boxes in the applications, like which one of these do you fulfill? Are you first in family? I'm that one. I'm this and that.
It's just
So I'm
checking.
definitely, checking a lot of those boxes. And I would say that in terms of talking about my academic journey as well, I've started previous degrees and done this and that. So I would say that I'm someone who has had a really interesting and non-linear academic journey and career, and but it's somehow gotten me into a really good place that I'm in now.
That's great, and I mean, we kind of know a general idea of your academic, I guess, trajectory, but I guess would you like to share a bit more about how you started with uni, how what happened, what was it like for you? Yeah.
So, well, we'll start. I think we'll take it real back. We'll take it all the way
Let's
back
go.
to me graduating
Let's
high
go.
school. So, quite a bit ago at this point. I graduated in 2013. You can do the math on that. And I immediately went into university. So I actually used to live. I actually used to live in Townsville. That's where I grew up. So bit regional, bit rural, somewhere in between. And I, for some reason, thought that moving all the way across the country, I wanted to be in somewhere completely new. I was like, I've lived in this place for 17 years. I've got to check something else out. So I moved to Perth.
Okay.
All by myself. Yeah, just me and my suitcase. I moved to Perth and I started at the University of Western Australia there. So that was a very, very interesting experience. As you can probably imagine, not knowing a single person, being a very, very young person as well, really navigating that world and trying to even just find rental properties. I don't drive, so that was also compounded difficulties. it was just like a whole lot of stuff going on. Like in my first semester over there,
Yes, yes.
I did, I did well, and I think it was just because I still had that oomph in me from high school. I was just riding that wave and still feeling good and successful. But I think it really caught up with me not knowing anyone and not having friends there, not having family there, not having really any support system. It really made it a really difficult task to succeed. You know, like as people, we need to have friends, we need to have support in all aspects of our life to even just succeed at university. So that definitely started to catch up with me. And and one of my friends who lived back here on the Gold Coast, she basically was like, why don't you just move back after a year and a half of my degree? And I was kind of like, don't know if I can continue studying. It's so difficult. There was like, to be truly honest, there was like bouts of homelessness and like just being at rock bottom as I could be, still trying to do university. So I had a friend who was like, you know what, I'll pay for your flight, come over, we'll have a brand new start over here. So I wouldn't say yes, I said yes. Next day I was on a plane, simple as that. And then when I came over here, I was kind of in a similar position. I obviously had that friend, but the support system still wasn't there, and I still tried to re-enroll at Griffith University. Well, enroll at Griffith University, and I was successful. I got in somehow. They were happy to have me, and then I think I went to my first Chem 2 lecture. I sat in the back. I came in late after struggling to find the room. The whole campus just blew my mind. I came in late. Everyone turned around and looked at me, and I just was like, I can't be here. And then I dropped out. That I withdrew from that entire trimester. I was like, not for me, not right now. So that was really interesting because for the first time in my life, I wasn't studying. And that was something I'd always seen myself doing. So it was definitely an interesting situation, but that pretty much gets me over to here.
Oh my God.
And that's still just the start of another very long-winded story of where I've gone and how I've progressed through university. But yeah, I think I'll stop there for now. I think if I keep going, I will take up the entire session.
I mean, that's
part of the point of having you here as a guest.
Exactly.
I mean, if we want to hear it, I'm happy to keep
Yeah,
going.
go. I'm really interested in the whole story. Like already the start there, you know, the not hitting it off at first, traveling to the other side of the country, and then, you know, I guess bouts of like things like homelessness, hitting rock bottom. Like, I have to just commend the journey you've clearly taken is phenomenal. So I guess, you know,
I waited till at least 25 before I started going to hell, but you was just like, nah, I'm going to Perth, and I'm just gonna
just speed running it. That's what we're doing.
You know, I like to start at rock bottom. There's nowhere but up, you know?
Yeah, exactly, right? So you were just like, let's find the bedrock and move on up.
Yeah, so, honestly, when I look back now, that's kind of how I view it. I definitely see it as, you know what? Nothing can be as bad as that.
So do you I guess look at it in a negative light still, or do you kind of look at it as a wow, that was the starting point of something really great?
It's a bit of both. Like, you know, I can't neglect the fact that it was a really difficult time, and even when I think back to the memories in my head, it feels difficult to really think about how I felt at the time. It was very helpless. And I think obviously moving past that and even moving into, I guess, a period of what I deem success in my life is a lot easier to look at it as a period of like extreme growth and building of like even more, building my resilience even more, and building just how well I can overcome adversity. That's kind of how I have to look at it. I think that if I kind of look at it as, boo me, that was so unfair, why did I have to go through that? It does nothing for me, it's a bit of a defeating task, and not to say that I haven't done it for a very long time to get past that, but now it's a bit of to me, it's a waste of time. I would rather try and find solutions and try and look to the future, I guess, and that's kind of how I really try not to get bogged down or bogged down with a lot of that stuff, because it is quite heavy sometimes.
No, I definitely agree, and I guess it's good that you can look at it objectively, I suppose, and recognize, that it was not necessarily a great time, but by the same token, it was something that helped you. So I guess
100%.
then I guess we can talk more about the positives now. You've got your journey here.
Well, I was going to say, well, then what happened next?
Exactly.
Because you've given us the introductory chapter of this book that has been your university experience. So now we need the middle. There's always got to be conflict, right, in the middle. So
yeah, I would say definitely. So sadly, sadly's kind of like, is it really sad? I don't know. Continue. So when I did re-enroll, I had been at Griffith, I withdrew, and then I said, you know what, it's not for me. I'll come back next year and I'll do great. I believe it. So I ended moving from the Gold Coast up to Brisbane. I didn't like the Gold Coast, sorry guys.
Oh no.
The culture's just different, It is a very different culture on the Gold Coast. It feels very go somehow.
Yep. No, we identified that well and truly last week with Dan and Hillary. We are well understanding of that.
It is hustling and bustling. So yeah, I think especially the campuses really I was overwhelmed. I was completely overwhelmed. So I moved up to Brisbane, and I kind of automatically got moved to Nathan campus, because that's where all my degrees courses would be done. So then begins the next chapter, where I go through a period of not being able to really recognize that I should be withdrawing from courses. So yeah, really, all those things that were really plaguing me back in Perth weren't really remedied. I still didn't have the social and familial support that I needed to succeed, as well as, everything from financial, housing stability, everything that really comes into that whole world of, being able to just put your mind onto university and not have to worry about, how am I going to eat today? Will I have a house tomorrow? Those kind of things. And so there was still probably at least 2 years of me starting courses, getting to probably week 5, being absolutely terrified, thinking there is no way that I will ever be able to finish this course, and either withdrawing or not even withdrawing. And anyone who has any understanding of academic standing and how the university works in terms of how many courses you can fail and those type of things, will have an idea that it's not a lot. You can't keep going and stuff like that. So I did get to a point where I was kind of called out by the university as kind of like, are you going to take this serious? And I think for me, that shook me to my core. Absolutely shook me to my core, because I had never thought about doing anything else but studying. And for that, the idea, the thought of that to not be there, that I would have to do something that I'm not passionate about at all. And it sounds a little contradictory, because you think, if I'm so passionate about something, why can't I just do the degree? Why can't I just study the courses, And sometimes I know that's a thought that a lot of people have, You think, I love this course so much, I should just be able to succeed in it. But there's so many factors that come into it, and there was lots of things that went on. I lost people that were close to me in really traumatic events, and that rippled through my entire studies and really put me in I was going to be explicit, put me in a really terrible position. And
Explicitity is
As
allowed
explicit
here.
as you want.
You can be, yeah.
yeah, put me in a bloody
Have you heard
shitty
how I
position.
talk?
I have the mouth of a sailor, but I try to.
Perfect. No,
Keep it
you are more
together.
then you are more than welcome on this show because we do too.
But yeah, so it really got to a point where I was doing the same shit over and over again, and it wasn't pushing me any further to my goals. And when I really had that reality check, it made me think, and I was like, all right, it's been 2 years. What do I have to show for it? Nothing. Absolutely nothing but a couple of extra years on my life. So yes, I was happy I was still there and still trying, but in all aspects, I knew that I could do more. I knew just how much I could achieve. I mean, at this point, I was kind of starting to doubt it a little bit because it had been so long since I had felt successful.
Yeah.
But I kind of made an agreement with myself. One of the first things I did was actually, I went to a workshop that the university used to run called a reboot workshop. And it was basically to get people back in, get them orientated into their degree, and it was actually run by the lovely Jackie Wilkinson. So that was in fact the first time I ever met Jackie, where she was running the workshop to help really pull people back on track. So
to pull
lo
people
and behold, she
to pull people, I guess, back on academic track, you could say.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds like Martin's foreshadowing something.
Keep that in mind.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was a reboot workshop run under the BOAT program, and Jackie has her hand all over that. So she unknowingly had a huge impact on just feeling like I was seen and I could do it, and this wasn't an impossible thing to come back to, you know? That even though, you know, I had withdrawn from all these courses, I had even failed a couple because it just, university was the last thing on my mind when it came time to withdraw. So things had slipped through the cracks, mistakes were made, just anything you could do wrong, I kind of did it. And that reboot workshop really just put my feet back on the ground and helped me face in the right direction. And I made an agreement with myself. I said, all right, you know, you've been doing this for how long? You either need to just do it, or you need to stop wasting your time, wasting your money, and figure out another opportunity that's going to work for you. Not to say I can't come back and study, but it's obviously not the right time for me. So the agreement I made was basically, you're going to do 2 courses over T3. And you're going to try your absolute hardest, and if you pass them, then this is where you're meant to be. If you don't, I was going to take the hint for me. So,
oh my God, that's an
so
ultimatum.
I came back. Yeah, it was very frightening because I knew I had to pull my head in, and you know I had made a commitment to myself. I kind of can't run away from that one. And yeah, the 2 courses, I did statistics and I did biosystems. So not the 2 worst courses in the world. They were all right to kind of lean back into, and I think statistics was run really well, that it was very doable for me. And yes, things were progressing well. All my assignments, I was smashing, absolutely smashing them. And I think a lot of it was because I had found stable housing. I felt stable financially. I had seen my family, seen my friends, caught up with everyone, and I was in a really good place. And then during week 8, 9, 10, somewhere around there, I was out with my friends one night, and I got some random drunk dude assaulted me. Like, he just physically assaulted me. So right at the peak, as I'm coming back in, you know, and I'm doing so well, and I'm like right on that little stretch, and something happens, and I thought, you know what, I'm probably going to just spiral out and have to withdraw off the census state on this one. But I managed to take the special consideration. I managed to do all the things I did, talk to all of my conveners and be like, hey, something's happened out of my control. I'm still 1 in 60, but I just need a little leeway. and they were really, really nice. So I did manage to finish that trimester, and surprisingly, I did pass both my courses, and that kind of got the ball rolling. Like as soon as I could see that I could do it, and not just that I could pass, like I got a 7 in biosystems, and that was like mind blowing for me. I was like, how? All these years of just nothing to show for it, and finally I had really achieved something in a course that I enjoyed and I thought was really interesting. And then that kind of just progressed through to the next year, T1. I only had to do 3 courses now, which was also super, super helpful. So I was kind of just slowly building the increment of how many courses I was doing. So it took a little while, but I think just knowing that I could achieve things, especially in first year where I thought it was never going to happen, I think that really propelled me throughout second year despite...
One sec.
Yep.
Never mind.
We
were just told that apparently audio was lost, but apparently it's back. So
yeah.
Continue.
Yeah, I was just saying that getting back...
The coronavirus story.
Yeah, good old coronavirus. Yeah, I think a lot of people came into that year thinking, this is the year, I've got it together. I'm going to just smash goals. I had been hired as a PASS leader, something that I thought I would never do. I am absolutely terrified of public speaking. It mortifies me. This does a little bit. It's better than I'm talking to a computer. But
let's say you picked the right place because this is going out for thousands of people.
Wonderful. At least it's past me,
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I thought it definitely came into the year super optimistic, and then coronavirus. Yeah, I think it definitely took a little bit to really adjust to that and to even have it sink in that this wasn't just going to be for this year. That it was going to change things for a while, and that was really going to impact just the breadth of opportunities available, as well as how easy or difficult it would be. It really changed a lot.
My God. So how'd you, I guess, get into the PASS program? Because you mentioned Jackie's the hero of this story. So big props to you, Jackie.
No. The hero of this story, Martin, is Shai.
Yeah, Shai's the protagonist.
There was
of the
assistance from every good story has assistance from a sagely, loving teacher,
A
wise person, and that's our Jackie.
So how'd you get
in?
That
is 100% Jackie.
So what happened then? Because you were obviously working with Jackie for with Boat, and she was helping you with that, and then all of a sudden PASS leader Shai. So how did that happen?
Yeah, I think I wrote a pretty convincing cover letter.
Yeah.
I knew that when she would look at my academic transcript, those things aren't erased, even though, and I would like to mention this because it's something I like to mention to everyone, is that there is something called withdrawal after census date due to special circumstances. And this is an application you can make up to 1 year from the census day where you didn't withdraw, or maybe you failed, or something went on. And if you are approved, your grade will be turned into a withdrawal record. And also, if you're really lucky, you get your money back.
Ooh.
So that was something I had actually put forward, and that was because Jackie brought it up in that workshop, and that changed so much. It really, my GPA was immediately brought back up. Was it good? No. But it did make a humongous difference, and it made me just feel better that, you know, and then second trimester I went religiously. I went to every single PASS session for my courses, and I did all the worksheets, and I think I really formed a good group of friends there. And Zoe was actually one of the friends. One of my first friends actually at university, and we were kind of like, should we be PASS leaders?
Oh my god!
You know, you've got to get a 6 or 7 in the course, and we're like, we did that. Should we be PASS leaders? And just having her ask me it, like it was something that we could both do. I was like, well, you know, maybe I could. So I put in an application, and I wrote a very convincing cover letter, I would say, really addressing the fact that, you know, university hasn't been a linear journey for me, and it really reflects, my academic transcript really reflects my life happening outside of university. So although there has been a lengthy struggle, I did turn it around, and I stuck with it, and I pulled my head in, and I worked hard to get every single grade I did. And I just told her that I would apply that same tenacity to my role as a PASS leader, and I really wanted to challenge myself and expand, really. And it worked.
Oh my god!
Second year of being a PASS leader, so it's been, yeah, it was really, I was so scared to be a PASS leader. I was mortified. Completely mortified.
I think we all were though. So
I was actually going to say, you're not just a PASS leader. You're in the unique boat that I also happen to be in. Not that boat.
No, wrong boat.
But after our first year, even though it was the awful year that was coronavirus year, we still managed to convince Jackie somehow that we would be great senior leaders. And so she was like, you know what, let's make these guys senior leaders.
See, my
we were like,
my
she went along with it. Sweet.
My issue with that is I can very well see Shai as a senior leader. Like it makes sense to me. How you got the role. Now that's where I'm still trying to process.
We can argue about that in a minute, but anyway. So that's something else that I want to point out. Like you didn't just become a PASS leader with that convincing cover letter. You stuck to that tenacity, and you showed that you weren't just worthy of being a PASS leader, but that you were also worthy of being more than just a PASS leader. You were able to support the other PASS leaders and train new PASS leaders, and that was something I was saying when we introduced you. Like this year at training, like I remember you last year from training, and we were both in the same boat. We were both like, what do we do? Like, how do we stand out? Like, how do we make sure that we get this? And then, like, because we didn't really talk when we had training, and we didn't talk over the year because you were up at Nathan, I was down Gold Coast, and coronavirus, everything. And then, like, when I saw you again this year, and like every single mock session, like, maybe it wasn't every single mock session, but every time somebody had something that you noticed, you not only were able to pick that out, but you were able to articulate it really well, whether it be positive or negative. Not that we, dwell on negatives much, but like you were able to pinpoint things that I'm sitting there, like I said, going, how'd she even think of that? And how are you so right about it? Like,
I'm so flattered, because I honestly think I'm just blabbering every time I raise my hand. I was like, oh, thought of something. And I'm like, wait, is that even important? And I'll say it anyway.
Yeah, well, no, and that's the thing. Like sometimes I felt like that could be the case with some people, that it was like, I'm just saying this because I feel like I should say something. Whereas, like every time you spoke, it was like, holy crap, that was really impactful. Where'd that come from?
I am so flattered. I'm glad it wasn't a waste of air. Because I actually loved watching this year's new leaders coming through training to see how keen they were to really make the most of the role. And I think because a lot of them hadn't seen, or if they had only gone to a few face-to-face sessions. So for the large majority, they were just creating stuff out of their head. And it was so many unique sessions. I was like taking notes down. I was like, that's a really good session. It's like, steal that idea, make that my activity.
100%. I don't know, the new leaders we had, I don't know if it was spurred on by coronavirus or what, but creativity was very, very good.
Oh yeah, like this is to all those new leaders, if you're watching or if you're not, whatever, but like you should be watching. But like this year's group was like, I looked at last year's box and I thought, oh yeah, we did all right. We went with the basic. We did the stuff I expected from Pass, but then these guys were all like next leveling it, and I'm sitting there going, I'm not doing that. That's way too much effort. You guys are crazy. You want to do this every week for 11 weeks? Go right ahead, but I'm just going to stick to what I know.
I think I really loved Jane's session. She had the cells and she had like the nucleus was cut out, and I had so much fun. I was like, I want to go back to class so bad. And I think even just seeing across the board, just such original plans, such original activities, and I've loved seeing how they've kind of progressed and how they've even changed some of, now that they have access to all our resources, how they've changed some of our activities and made them their own. I love seeing it. I think it's so great.
They've been a really good group. I want to go backwards just a little bit and ask, so you came to a point where you were like, I either have to do this or it's not for me. And I know from my own experiences, and I'll probably get into those later, but that's a really hard choice to make. How did you make it? Like, how did you not only how did you like put that to yourself, but how did you stick to it and not just get lazy and be like, no, some stuff happened, so it's fine. Like, how did you stick to that and be like, how did you hold yourself accountable? That's the word I'm looking for.
I think one of the biggest motivations, and it's not exactly youthful across the board, was I was very disappointed in myself. I was disappointed at not reaching or achieving or really showing, even to myself, what I was capable of. Because I know I'm not an incapable person. I know I can do great things, but I also know that I need a good support system to achieve that. So I think the biggest thing was, after just several years of making excuses, being like, oh, but life's hard, oh, but this happened. It really got to a point where I was like, I think I've exhausted all the excuses I have. I'm kind of at wit's end with myself. And was it hard going back that T3? 100%. I have, I didn't grow up in a family where schooling was emphasized in any way, shape, or form. My academic journey has been really quite isolated in that way. So I never developed proper study skills or techniques to really cope at university. Those were things that I just didn't have within my kit. And I think the biggest thing was recognizing that first, being like, I don't even know how to study. I don't even know, I just watched a lecture, but I just watched it. I didn't get anything out of it. I just went, cool movie, close the laptop. So I think the biggest thing was having a bit of self-awareness and being like, okay, there has been reasons why you haven't succeeded, and it's not just no support system. why do you get scared by week 5? What's going on? You know, and really digging into that and being brutally honest with myself in the fact that as much as I know I can achieve things, I can't achieve them without having the right tools, without having the knowledge on how to achieve that. You know, we kind of got to like hack our brain a little bit and figure out how it works to even make the most of it. So that was really my first starting point. And it wasn't very in depth, it was more just like, how do you effectively study? And it was just learning about things like active recall and, you know, not passively taking in information. Things that a lot of people do naturally when they study, but for me, it was not something that had ever happened throughout primary and high school. You know, I just sat in a class, absorbed information, and it was there. But the sheer amount of information you get in high school compared to university is just insurmountable. It's not comparable in any way, shape, or form. So it wasn't going to cut it, just sitting there and hoping the information stuck. So I had to, the first thing was really equipping myself with the skills and the tools to actually study. And I think as much as it was an uphill battle, I think starting with just 2 courses gave me the room and gave me the flexibility to put time into that as well. So I started and it was no good. I look back at some of my notes now and I'm like, why did I just write everything that was on the slide? Why? But you know, you're not going to be perfect at the start. And for sure, I have developed so much over the past couple of years. And yeah, it takes time. So for anyone who is just starting or, you know, feel like they're struggling with, they don't know how to study either, you'll get it. You really will. It just is perseverance and sticking to it. And it's hard to really define a motivation for that. But I think it always helps to think about not just your end goal, but your immediate goal. And having some sort of bar for yourself to achieve, something to outdo yourself. I'm very competitive at the best of times, so that worked for me. Can I outdo me?
That's
So
sorry.
it's a
You
good
go.
thing you mentioned goals, because I was going to say it's a very relevant topic to something we talked about a few weeks ago, I think, wasn't it, Martin?
Yep. No, I think that was our first episode where we talked about goal setting and the importance of that. So, you know, we're really hammering home the PASS principles here by repeating things
Well,
over
it's
and
not
over.
even on purpose. It's just the things that happen. Like, it might seem like we're doing all these things and plugging PASS, but PASS is there reinforcing these things that we've just sort of like
Adopted.
they're relevant, and we're talking about them because they're relevant. But PASS kind of comes into that, and so it's really good.
I think it's also really interesting that you've had such a journey, Shai, and particularly you talk about, you know, you not having the skills or the capability to recognize how to study best, and then you've managed to develop that, and now you're in a position where you get to pass that knowledge on to students to so you get to give them that ability to develop those transferable skills and that, you know, those really critical methods of study. So it's really, I guess, interesting.
Full circle.
Yeah, it comes full circle. So it's quite enlightening, I guess, to see that.
100%. And I always try and, you know, we've really upped emphasizing study skills this year and really putting that at the forefront of our PASS sessions. And I really tried to run with that and really give them an explanation of why as well and talk about how that can impact them in their other courses. Because it might sound like a boring spiel at the start, but hopefully if just a little seed of that information gets planted in, that's more than enough.
See, the way I've been doing my study skills is literally just recalling on my own stupidity.
Please explain.
Okay, so my study skill this week was one that I actually did steal from Martin, but it's a very relevant one.
Don't give me don't put me under the bus for this.
No, but it's relevant to you because you were the one that we kind of were putting it in as a study skill last year when we weren't really focusing on study skills as much in our online sessions. But RTFQ, which is probably one of the best study skills, and it's relevant across all courses. But I used it especially for math, because if you read the question wrong in math, you're kind of going to screw up and get the wrong answer. And I extend that RTFQ to maybe also the answers. If you're doing multiple choice, read the answers, and like if one of them clearly doesn't make sense, maybe don't pick that one. Um, and then from my own experience, which some students, this is still going to be an alien idea to, but if you do a paper exam, not an online one, make sure you check every page, because
There's a
my
story
first
here.
year, yeah, here's my one of my stories. So linear algebra matrices quiz. I come out of it thinking that was intense. Like it took me the whole time to get to the end. And I come out and I'm talking to one of my friends, and he's like, "So what'd you get for the transformation matrix on the last page?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about? There's no transformation matrix on the last page." He's like, "Yeah, there was. It was right under a question about determinants." I'm like, "I didn't have either of these things on mine. What are you talking about? Are you sure we did the same quiz?" And he's like, "Yeah, they were right after the simultaneous equations." I'm like, "No, that was the last question on mine." And they're like,
No.
"You really should probably go check that."
No.
So Tim was walking past with the exams. I'm just like, "Tim, can you just show me? Like, I'm not gonna, like, obviously I can't do anything about it now. Can you just show me if there's a last page with the transformation matrix?" He's like, "No, I can't show you, but I can tell you that there is one." And I'm like, "Is there any chance? I know that the answer's no, but is there any chance that you can let me just have 5 minutes to have a look at it?" And he's like, "No, you're right. There is no chance." And I'm just like, damn. And like,
Savage.
this is one of the reasons I love Tim, because he is that direct about it. He's just like, "You fucked up." Like,
It's a
um,
learning experience, that's for sure.
yeah. And so I went from like the first two quizzes, I got like 16 plus out of 20. And then this one was dropped down to 12 out of 20, because there were 4 marks on that back page that I just didn't have a chance at getting, because I used all my time making sure I did one other question right and didn't realize it was the last page. So
And I think this is also where our perusal time is particularly useful.
we didn't get perusal time, thank you.
Uh,
So this was a quiz.
even if it's a quiz, use a minute, flick through everything. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
well, the big thing with math is that they will, and probably a lot of other subjects, the last question at the very bottom will have end of exam or end of quiz. Look for that, because I
You
didn't.
don't
And
see it, you're not there.
yeah, where if you don't see it, you're not there. And literally, when I got to review my thing and have a look at where I did go right on the other matrices questions, or wrong on the other matrices questions, I looked and it's sitting right there in bold underlined font, just end of quiz. And I'm like, yeah, I can see why Tim was just like, nope. And I looked at it and I showed him, because he was there when I was doing it, and he's just like, yep, that's why. Like, you didn't see end of exam, but you stopped. And I'm like, yeah, fair.
There's not much you can do
Never
about
do
that.
it again.
Well, I didn't get to do it again. I still got a passing grade for it, but I'm convinced that that was one of the reasons I didn't end up getting my high distinction, because of my own stupidity of not checking every page or not reading a question correctly. So it's the little things. But that's where
It
those study
really is.
skills that we do try to get in place through PASS come in handy, because it might sound stupid for me to be telling you, read the fucking question, but if you don't read the question, you can't get the answer.
Even the best of us do it, you
Yeah.
know. Silly mistakes. I do not know how many questions I have misread where they literally have like do not in bold, underlined, capitalized, and I still somehow, because I'm in a rush, I'm still not picking up on it. And simple mistakes, but it's always hard saying be calmer during an exam. Make sure you read the questions, because like I think the large majority of us get in there like palms sweaty, you know, just not ready for it at all.
See, that
Yeah,
that
just for
was
context too, sorry to cut
No,
you
no,
off,
it's all
Martin.
good.
Just for context too, Shay, you and I are the only ones that can really understand this because Mr. 80 out of 80 on all of his quizzes over here and all of his final exams and 100% in classes has no idea what the hell we're talking about.
Because I read the
Top tier
question,
success.
Daniel. I read the question, Daniel. That's why. This is why
Yeah,
I push
this
it
is why he
so much.
gets his 80 out of 80.
Yeah,
He
I
got a whole
push it
mark
so
I just
much.
can't read.
every question just for reading the damn thing.
Yeah, there's a little hidden checkbox below each question that says, "Did you read the question?" And when you press that, you automatically get extra marks. You didn't see that yet. Oh.
I wish.
Clearly, I didn't read that because
No.
otherwise I would have seen that.
But it's actually quite interesting because in my sessions this week, my study skill is actually about exam prep and trying to help students to you were talking about when you get nervous and that sort of thing. So I've got a little video there that explains how to prepare for an exam before the exam, how to set up, how to try and calm your nerves and all those things. Because while we might say don't be nervous for your exam, do you know how little it hurts? Little it helps when someone tells you don't be nervous. Like it does absolutely nothing. You need.
Now I'm even more nervous.
Yeah,
because I'm nervous because I'm nervous, and they told me not to be nervous.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like, and this is a small tangent. When people ask you, "Are you okay?" and it's like, I was until you asked me, and now I'm thinking about all the things I'm not okay about. And that it's kind of what this week has been like. I've been very, very specific because one of the things I've done for myself is all the new leaders down on Gold Coast I've been just checking in on each week. A few of them I've been forgetting, and I apologize to them profusely today. So if they're watching, they know who they are. But I would not ask like, "Are you doing okay?" or whatever. I'd just be like, "How are you hanging in there?" or something like that. Something that was away from a generic question, so it was just like not something that made them stop and think, "Oh God, am I doing something wrong? Is that why he's messaging me?" or something like that. Because like, I have anxiety. I have an anxiety disorder. I have a depression disorder, and it's just like, I know the wrong things to say because they've been said to me my whole life.
Always overthinking the
Yep.
messages and how it come across.
Yep. So
Very relatable stuff.
that's one of the reasons why you may remember my mock last year. I just came out and said it and was just like, guys, I have serious mental health issues, and one of the things I'm going to be bringing to these PASS sessions is the fact that it's okay to have these issues because they are just a part of life. And as you've explained, like, you've had hell of a ride. Like, you've been homeless, you've been quite literally beaten, and you've come out of it still smiling and laughing like this, and that's actually insane to me because my brain cannot understand that because of the depression. It's like, how can you be happy? Why have you not just been miserable about it?
It's definitely it's not straightforward. I can really relate to your shoes, and even when you gave your mock session last year and you brought that up, I can't remember who I talked to, and it might have even been Jackie sometime a while after, but I remember saying I really liked Daniel's mock session, and I really love that he put some visibility out there for people who are suffering from mental illness, because it's not talked about much at all, and there's a lot of successful people who do really well, but you would have no idea that they're suffering from mental illness. And I definitely, when I was back in Perth, I got diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, and that's been a constant uphill battle of also building that toolkit of how do I not let that derail my goals in my life and not let that become necessarily who I am, and still be able to be me. So I really loved your mock session. I thought it was wonderful, and I think it took a lot of balls to really stand up there in front of. It was a big group of strangers. It was like a lot of people, and to just say, this is me, this is who I am, this is what I'm going through, but I'm still going to do my absolute fucking best today.
And I think at that point, the only person in that room, or two people, I think Jackie had a pretty decent idea because I'd mentioned it during like the interview process and everything. Because I was like, I like not because I don't think you'll hire me because of these reasons. I just want you to be aware that these things exist, and it's why I have been out of work for as long as I have. And she was just like, "Yep, no, that's fine. I don't care about that. We will support you if we need to." But one of those people that did know about that, and this is where I throw him really under the bus, was Martin. And I said to him before my mock, I'm like, "Do I tell them?" And he's like, "What do you gain from telling them?" And I'm like, "Nothing. It just shows the sort of person I am." And he goes, "Then do it. Like, if you think it's the right thing to do it." And I'm like, it's not like, because one of the things, because with that anxiety and the overthinking, I'm like, is this me now appealing to the crowd for like sympathy points? And he's like, no, that's the stupidest thing you've ever asked me. And I'm like, really? I've asked you some really stupid shit. And
Yeah,
he's like, no,
yeah.
that like, go,
It,
you
it,
talk,
it,
because
it,
this was your.
it's funny because we have a lot of those moments where we're talking about something very serious, and then we just be like, "No, you're an idiot!" Like, and because we just have such a good
Do we talk
relationship
about
where
our
it's
GPA curve last night?
oh, that was a whole other thing that we were talking last night about. It was him and Mackenzie and I were in a call, and then we were talking about GPA or something because, well, this I guess ties in with our episode today. Both of them
Yeah.
were discussing whether to drop a course or not, and they wanted my help in, like planning what they could do, what are their options, that sort of thing. They wanted advice, so we were talking as friends, and then um, they were talking about, advised prerequisites versus, actual needed prerequisites. And then they said, oh, we're not good students. And I was like, hang on, did you both just tell me you were not good students? And then they started saying, oh,
Two,
but
two
my
past leaders
two
saying this,
past
by the way.
leaders. And they were saying it to
One a
me.
senior leader somehow.
And then they went and looked at their GPAs and told me their GPAs, which I won't share here, but they told me their GPAs. So then I said, all right,
They were higher than 5, I'll say that.
they were above 5, and their GPA was what would be considered a strong GPA by the university standard. So I said, hang on here, you guys are just so stupid. Give me 1 second. So I went on Paint, and I drew up a little curve and then a bell curve. And then I drew a dot at the maybe like a 60 to 75 percentile. So where the curve starts going down. And I just drew an arrow and I wrote, I don't want to be that explicit, but let's just say I said, you idiots.
He called us fuckwits.
Yeah, I said that's.
He was like, this is where you fuckwits are.
This is
This is where you're saying you're bad students and you're on this side of the curve.
exactly.
You fuckwits.
So that was me more or less saying with that bell curve that this is where you are. I don't know what you guys are thinking, but clearly the stress or whatever has gotten to your head and you are thinking irrationally, totally. So I showed them that bell curve. Mackenzie's now posted that on Instagram. Daniel's sending it everywhere because it was my little dumb little 10-second paint drawing. But so that's pretty much a summary of it. And I guess on that story, it kind of touches on census date because that we were talking because census date is coming up on Sunday and they weren't sure whether to keep a course or not. So we were going through, well, why are you doing the course? What do you need to do the course?
So
is it worth it?
So I'll quickly talk about this because the course in question I'm not going to throw under the bus because it's a great course. It's not the course's fault, but the course is an entity and we're protecting its feelings. Okay, the course is great. No, but really, it had nothing to do with the course. I mean, the assignment was giving us both the shits that was due tomorrow, but the main thing was we both looked at it, and I'm pretty sure, and Mackenzie can correct me if I'm wrong in the chat if she's still here, but
Cheers.
this is the first time both of us were trying to do 4 courses. After doing nothing but 3 courses or 2 courses or 1 course for our entire degree so far. I think she was doing 3s mostly, and that's what I'd been doing, but we can come back to that when I tell my version of the Corona story, because I would like to hear how you dealt with it as well. And also hear Martin's thoughts, being that we're all at different points of our university journey on how Corona affected us. And I know that we're at the hour mark, so we're just going to keep talking, and I don't even care. But basically, we were trying to do this thing, and we were doing it because we thought it was a required prerequisite for our third year courses. And maybe this is me taking a shot at the university, but I don't care. But the amount of courses that are only offered in trimester 1 and then not again until trimester 1 is absolutely freaking ridiculous. So it's like, if I don't do this now, I've got to wait a whole year to do it. And then if I don't do it then, or if I do badly at it, I've got to wait a whole nother year. And that pushes my degree out and pushes my HEX debt out and all of that loveliness. So it's just like, what the hell? And this is why the required versus advised prerequisite came up with Martin. And we were looking at it and we were like, well, all of these other courses are required for something else. And I don't know, because I'm doing a double degree, so that makes it even more messy, because each degree only has things offered in trimester 1. So we're sitting there trying to work out, like, if I drop this course, when can I redo it? And if I redo it at this particular point, how's it going to affect these courses for my other degree? And all these different things. And it's a lot. To quote Mackenzie, she didn't say it last night, but it was one of her big things. This is a lot. You guys are a lot. Like, this is a lot. Because it's hard to make sure that you're actually still going to finish your degree, not just in a timely manner, but at all, because you might miss something that's an actually required course somewhere along the line.
Might be phased out.
Like my roommate had that happen. He stopped, like, it was a first year course that he'd just been putting off because he was doing courses in the order he wanted. Went to do it this year and looked and went, this hasn't been offered since 2019. What? How am I meant to do it now? So there's just all sorts of little things like that. And these are the things, like, long story short, Mackenzie and I dropped it. This is my second time starting the course and doing it for 4 weeks and dropping it. So in the back of my head, my anxiety and my depression are like, you're fucking shit. Like, why are you doing this? You can't do this course. But at the same time, I'm looking at it logically and going, I had to do this because there was no way I could maintain, not contain, the level of work that I needed to be doing that course and my other courses, and be a good pass leader, and be there for my friends, and go see my puppy every second week, and do all these things that I actually need to do because that's who I am.
You're a
And
human.
yeah, I'm a human. I want to, like, I hate that during uni. Like, I love uni. It's one of the best things that's happened to me in my life. But I also kind of hate it at times because I get so busy doing uni work that I don't get to hang out with my friends that I used to spend pretty much 24 hours a day with, doing nothing but play video games. Like, one of them is my best friend probably in the world. Martin, you don't even get to argue with this one because Pickle's been there a lot longer than you. He lives in Texas, so the only way I get to play with him is online, and his sleep schedule is always all over the place. But if we're both awake and he's online, I'm sitting there going, I want to do stuff with him. But, like, I'll get home from a day at uni and doing pass sessions all day and taking in information from a lecture, and I'll just sit there and stare at the screen and be like, I want to do stuff with you, but I cannot literally do anything right now that requires a brain thought. Like, I'm just going to watch YouTube and die to it. And he's really understanding and accepting of that, but at the same time it just sucks because I'm like, I want to hang out with you. You are awesome, you're my best friend, and I can't do that. And yeah, where am I going with this story?
Just another story that
Census
highlights the
Census
highlights.
date. Yeah, okay, cool. Yep, census date.
It
So
does.
census date's important because the thing about Census Day that they may not really reinforce to you, but if you drop a course before the Census Day, you do not get charged for it. You do not get a withdrawal. You don't get a withdrawal fail. No, you don't get a
Withdrawal fail,
withdrawal on
yeah.
your transcript, and you definitely don't get a withdrawal fail.
Yeah. So you don't pay for it. Your GPA is not affected.
Yeah, you don't get charged for it. You don't get affected in any way. So one thing I would do if I was any student, whether you're about to finish your degree like Martin, one trimester away, which it would be a bit silly for him to do it at this point. But
my
if
supervisors
you are
might kill
doing,
me.
yeah, your supervisors would kick your ass after the amount of hoops they had to jump through to get you to be able to finish this trimester. This advice is for anyone but Martin right now. But if you are feeling overwhelmed by a course, it could be one of the courses Shai is taking you for, or I'm taking you for. I don't care. But I love seeing people at PASS, but I would rather know that you are doing mentally okay and not pushing yourself through hell, whether it be mentally, physically, emotionally, whatever. Drop the damn course. If you need to be doing 3 courses for Centrelink and you're doing 4, pick the one that's giving you the most stress. If all of them are giving you equal stress, maybe just look at it and go, is uni going to work for me this trimester? Because it's better to look at, it's great to finish your degree, yeah. But if you're not there mentally around and sound to do what you want to do with your degree, what the hell was the point?
100%. And I think, in my role, because I'm also a boat mentor, that's also another role that I have alongside being a PASS leader. So I actually get to go out and I get to call all these students all the time and really check in with everyone. And I think one of the pieces of advice I always give around Census Day is that, if it's hectic by week 4, it only gets more insane. So if you're struggling by week 4 and you're like, I am barely just keeping it together, it's time to really think about. There's a number of things you want to protect. You want to protect how you're feeling. You want to protect, your mental health, your GPA, and at the end of the day, we're doing a degree because hopefully it's something that we enjoy. And hopefully it's something that we want to progress into beyond the degree, whether it's the general field or whatever. So it's something that we should actually truly be getting something out of. So if you feel like it is a complete chore, there's not even a little hint of interest and curiosity and something engaging about the course, then it's those times when we really got to evaluate what we're doing and why we're doing it, because uni is a lot of time and it's a lot of money, and it's not something that we should take lightly just because we have things like HEX, and for this very second it might not come out of your pocket. And yeah, so that I always give very similar advice that, mental health comes first. How are you meant to succeed in a course and enjoy a course and really make the most of it if you're not even feeling like your best, Not necessarily the top best, but, you still feel like yourself. If you're not there and you feel like things are being tacked away, you're not seeing friends, you're not doing this or that, then evaluate it. And of course, sacrifices come in within a degree, but it's not about sacrificing everything. It's about sacrificing that party the night before you have an assignment. If we work hard and we plan, then anything is possible throughout a trimester. It's just about the effort that we can put into looking at our lives and thinking about what is actually achievable and reasonable for me. Really not trying to, convince yourself that doing 20 jobs and 5 courses and this and that and doing extra things here and there is going to be possible if you know that 4 courses is already pushing it for you.
No, I definitely agree. And it is about, again, we discussed that balance and making sure you have time for everything, time to, time for yourself, time for your friends, time for your extracurriculars, time for your family, time, all that sort of thing. I must admit, personally, this week, I've been neglecting the myself aspect of it. Daniel
He
furiously
has.
nodding his head.
I can vouch for this. Like, it's been so hectic for Martin, and I'm throwing him under the bus again like this, but it's been so hectic for him. Like when the extra pass sessions for online were announced, I was like, if you take any of those as leader two, I'm gonna kick your fucking head in because you cannot do them. And he's like, I didn't plan on. I'm like, good. And like even last week, um, he was like, I'm so behind on things, and I'm like, don't come in for your pass sessions. Kaylee can run them. I will damn well run them if I have to, but you have to do what you need to do to get on top of this. And Martin, being Martin, didn't listen. Uh, but
I gave a
he
good
justified it
excuse.
in different ways because he really does enjoy pass leading so much so that it gives him that energy to come back and re-attack his work with a bit more vigor. Um,
Mm.
one of the things, like for both of us, like I'm sure it's probably been noticeable throughout this, but we started tonight in a downtrodden, this week has sucked, but just through talking, not just to each other, but to you as well, Shay, obviously. Um, I'm feeling better about this week already
Mm.
because we've had this.
Hmm.
And that has been
Mm.
huge because this week sucked. um, and this week last year, and this is how I'm transitioning into it, this week last year really sucked because this was the week we got the news that everything was going online for the foreseeable future. No more lectures. They were going to be pre-recorded for some subjects or live online with lecturers that had not been taught how to use Collaborate,
Or a computer in general.
or a computer in general. So some were really tech savvy. Like shout out to Tim from math because he was like I won't say he was ready for it, but like he had been delivering online stuff before. So with this change, nothing really changed for him. He was just like, yep, okay, now I have to do this instead. But for other lecturers that had never done this, it was a struggle. And for us as pass leaders, it was a struggle. But I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about, and I'm going to throw to Martin here first because he's been really quiet tonight.
I
Mostly
love being
because
right.
we've been talking about our shitty experiences, and he's like the straight seven student that's never had a worry in the world.
What?
But Martin, tell us about your worries in the world when Corona hit and how that affected you,
Um,
and how that affected you this week with the lockdowns as well.
so in general, last year, the main issue I had with Corona was that I'm a very extroverted person. I get a lot of energy from talking to people, which is why I love Pass so much. And anyone who's been in my Pass sessions know I will bounce off the walls. I just love. I get so much energy just from interacting with people. So it's a bit weird, but my first instinct when we had the lockdown wasn't about, oh, I can't see my friends or anything. It was, oh, I can't see my students. And that was the first big thing that kind of hit me like a truck, and it was really rough. And it took me a while to kind of try and get out of that mindset of, you know, that this sucked, and I had to deal with it, and I had to try and find the positives. But then it was, I guess, streamlined because I saw what the other pass leaders were doing, and everyone else, like, I know maybe behind the scenes it wasn't like this, but what I was seeing was that they were all like, oh, foot to the gas, what can we do, what new activities can we make, how can we make this really good online? And I guess for me, I was like, hang on, is it just that no one cares, or is it that no, they do care and they're just, pushing through it and doing really good things? And so that kind of changed my mindset, and I was like, all right, how can I make this really good semester or trimester for my students? What can I do? And then I was able to pull myself out of that mentality. Online still sucked. No one's going to discuss that it did suck, but at least it allowed me to kind of change my mindset and start to think, okay, it sucked, but how can I make it suck less? And that was the big thing that got me through the last year. And then now we're in lockdown here again, I'm kind of like, okay, so I won't have my Brisbane students. I do have a few students from Brisbane and around there. How am I going to make it that if this extends or if it prolongs, how am I going to make it so it won't suck? What am I going to do? And I kind of had to try and get that mentality again. Now, my only issue here is that while I'm in a really good mentality with pass, and on what Daniel said, he wasn't joking. Yes, last week he pretty much said you're not allowed to come to uni at all. You have to do your stuff. And I gave him the convincing excuse that pass gives me so much energy. So what I did was I'd go to uni just for my pass sessions, get a lot of energy out of that, feel really good, and then I'd come back home and I'd feel energized to do my work. Now this week was a bit rough, but we've still got the in-person sessions, but you've still, everyone's with a mask. It's a little different. Like one of my students mentioned that the social aspect of it is kind of creepy of having everyone with masks. But we've come online and Kaylee's doing a session online tomorrow, which I will be leader doing for. I don't think Daniel will approve, but yeah, so that we'll do that. But the real thing that hit me with this lockdown was actually my coursework itself. So I didn't have a studio today or a lab yesterday, and I've still got work from UQ to do. And that trying to keep myself in a good mental mindset with that, like trying to not just say, "Oh, screw it," and go into a hidey hole. That's been the real challenge that I'm trying to work through. But I guess today's the last day. Like tomorrow's the last full day before we go on break. So all I need to do is get through tomorrow. So this is why I'm really kind of glad we had this episode, because we've got census date, and then we've got next week, which is mental reset week, I think, for a lot of people. So that's kind of my take on it, and I definitely plan on using that as a mental reset week. It's going to sound really weird, but I'm actually going to be at uni as much as I can for next week, because I'm going to be working on my research work. And for me, that sort of stuff is, I'll be in an engineering lab, I'll be working with things. That gives me a lot of energy too. That makes me feel good. It makes me feel happy. So that's my way of, I guess, resetting and, still staying in touch with university, which is something that I love, but also getting that mental break that I need, and that, I guess, circuit breaker from what has been a really tough week. I don't know about you, Shai. What do you have planned as your, I guess, reset?
Shay, we can't hear you.
Has she muted? Have we lost Shai?
No, she's still there.
Yeah, I know, but have we lost her voice?
She's trying to work. We've lost the audio.
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
trying to work out what's going on.
Well, I guess while she's figuring that, Daniel, what's your plan for the week? How are you going to use it as a mental
Well,
reset?
my plan for the next week, I've already sort of organized with people, but I have now 3 courses that I need to catch up 4 weeks worth of content on, because I've been really bad with my content. So I will be spending at least 1 full day on each of those courses, because I'm not the sort of person where I can study for and this isn't to throw anyone under a bus or anything, but if somebody advised to me that, why don't I try 25 minutes of study, then 5 minutes? I'm like, no. I either have to do all my study or none of it. I can't do it in between. It's just got to be done or not done. So that's one thing I've got to do, is allocate days where I'm just like, this is study day and I have to study all of that day. And then going forward, what I have to do is allocate actual study times, which is something my psychologist and I talked about doing at the beginning of the trimester. And I'm like, yep, I'll totally get on that. Never got on it. And here I am, behind on everything. So that's how I plan on dealing with it. What happened with me with the lockdown was basically just this time around, it didn't affect me outside of the mentality of knowing that this affected me last year. I think we've got Shay back.
Can you guys hear me
We
yet?
can, yes.
Yes, we can. Excellent.
I got backup headphones.
Love that. Prepared.
Always gotta come prepared.
how I dealt with the lockdown this week was pretty much just don't fall into the spiraling drain inside my head of saying that this is happening the same as last year, that this is going to happen
Mm,
again.
mm,
And I think a lot of that was me just ranting kind of mostly at Martin about different things, and my other friends just about other random things because it didn't matter what it was. I just ranted about it.
And it was just to cut in. It was quite funny because he'd give me a rant, a list of things, and then I'd say, "What do you need me to do? Like, what can I do to help you?" And I thought, "All right, I'm ready. Like, gonna help my friend here. Whatever he needs, that's what I'm gonna do." And all he said was, "Oh, no, I don't need anything. I just wanted to rant. Just that was it." And I was
Yeah,
like, "Okay,
that was it. I just needed to get
you
something out
did
of my
it.
system, so I'm like, you're a wall right now, and I'm screaming at you. Um, the other reason why too that there was nothing Martin could do is because I'm very conscious of how much he had to do. So I'm like, even if there was something you could do, you're not the person I'm asking to do that right now, because I understand your
Ah,
responsibilities. So if there was something you could have done, I would have gotten you to do it. But if it was something somebody else could have done
yep,
is equally as well as you, I
okay."
would have just gotten them to do it. But at the end of the day, all I needed was a wall, and you were my wall. Um,
Such a good wall.
yeah,
That's me.
I
That's
mean,
my
look at
job.
him. The mustache needs to be removed. So
Is this just
we'll
gonna
get
be
on
a
I'm
that.
for the mustache.
yes?
Everyone seems to be, and it's ruining what we want to plan for it. So, uh,
Got a
but
large majority.
Mm,
before I tell my story about how I dealt with Corona last year, or how I didn't deal with Corona last year, let's hear from you, Shay. How did you deal with Corona last year? How did you deal with lockdown this week?
Mm,
And then how are you planning on spending the next week? Sort of
mm.
resetting.
Ooh, yeah. So I think for most of us, this week really felt like a bit of a COVID PTSD, I guess.
mm,
Very triggering, very like right back into that headspace we were at last year of just we have no idea what to expect. We don't even know if, like, at one point they're going to cancel uni. Like, we just had no idea, no expectations. Just, well, I hope this blows over soon. That was
mm,
kind of my hope. Really trying to be optimistic there, but I think we all kind of had a feeling it was
mm-mm.
not
Not
going
this
to be a
time.
smooth journey in the following months. So I think what really got me through last year was forming routine, because that's really what having face-to-face lectures and tutorials and workshops and labs and everything that comes with that, having that structure really kept me on track in first year. Having I needed to get to uni by 8 and I stayed there till 5, and making up that own routine for myself, and really coming second year and being completely online, I had to kind of replicate that and make it for myself. So I got really into scheduling,
Hmm.
um, really into to-do lists, lots and lots of things that would just, like it was just constant bombardment at the start with, the cases are rising, this is going on, now it's in this country, now it's over here, now there's this many deaths. It was just constant news coming through, and it was exhausting, and it was just like clogging my brain. So, um, really making to-do lists and scheduling saved me so much, because I at least had it written down. As much as my brain just felt mushy some days, I knew what I needed to do. I'd gone through the effort to make to-do lists.
Mm,
But um, I think something else that really hit home for me was having people working from home, having my housemates working from home. It made it incredibly difficult to study.
mm,
My desk is basically in the lounge room, so doesn't really work out when I'm wanting to still study at 7 at night. There's people watching TV in the back, and
yeah.
I can't switch off. So it was huge learning curve of figuring out how am I going to actually make this work for me,
Mm,
and in a way where the way that I know how to learn, and I also had to adapt that a lot. But I think um, as soon as we could, I was back at uni every day. Whether the library was open or not, I was just somewhere studying, somewhere that was out of my home. To me, home is home, and I don't study there. I don't do work there. And that was there was a period where it had to be that. And I think that for me was one of the worst times, was not having a division between study and home. It's like I could never switch off. So as soon as I could, I was back on campus, even if I was just sitting on a random chair outside doing my studies, whatever it took to create some sort of division in my mind. And it really helped me focus being there, because I knew I came here for a reason. And if I didn't do it, I felt really guilty. So
Yep.
it was constantly motivating, just telling myself, this is where you work. This is where you study. Don't come here to watch YouTube videos. If you want to do that, go home. That's home stuff. So, and it was having a lot of self-discipline, which is really, really difficult when all you want to do is, sit at home, eat food, sit on the couch and watch TV. The world felt like it was burning up outside. So that was definitely where I wanted to be. But we know these things don't last forever. And I think it was definitely telling myself a lot of that, this is going to be something I look back at as a really challenging time, something that I've overcome. And like I said earlier, that's kind of how I look at all adversity in my life, is this is one hell of a challenge. And if I make it through this, then that's bloody phenomenal. So, and even making it halfway sometimes is just as phenomenal. So that was my attitude going in, and I constantly had to check in with that, because there were so many days where I just didn't want to do a damn thing. So coming this week and hearing the same announcement, it was right back into that mindset of being like, oh God, is it going to be the same again? Can I basically sit here and expect the unexpected again and have no way to plan for the near future? But I think the thing is, we've moved online before. We've done it. Was it the best? No. Did we lose out on opportunities? Yes, but I think it's you got to make the most of what's there. You've got to I it was a real insight for me having some of my conveners really, they spilled their guts to us on how they were struggling with it. And for me, that really put it in perspective. We're all trying to keep the cogs moving. Absolutely everyone is in a terrible position, but the world doesn't stop, sadly. And we need to figure out new ways to cope and adapt. And I think over a year, we've done, I think everyone has done phenomenal. Whether you passed your courses or whether you failed, if you tried your absolute best, I think it was still a phenomenal effort in a terrible year. So that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm feeling like very optimistic that it won't last, but I am preparing for the worst, that, perhaps this is maybe things will be extended. I took all my stuff home as soon as they said that we're going into lockdown. I was like, look, 3 days, I don't believe you. But I think it's just been coming and trying to have somewhat, even a
little bit of hope.
smidgen of an optimistic attitude.
Yeah, having an optimistic attitude is very, very important. Very hard for some people to have.
It's very hard.
How are you spending next week? Are you...
So it has been a hectic start to the trimester, and this is, even though I did do 4 courses last year in both of the trimesters, and that was insane, it's just another ball game this year. Content's a lot heavier, a lot more complex and harder to wrap my head around, so things have been taking longer than I always hope. So I think I'm spending a lot of next week catching up. And you know what? I'm actually so excited because I love my content this trimester, and it's something that I do really want to become proficient in. So I'm kind of excited to have 7 days to really just bunker down and get on top of my coursework, because I know for me that's going to relieve a lot of anxiety about the coming weeks as well.
Awesome. So the reason I wanted to leave my Corona story to the end is because I think it wraps this whole chat up really, really well, and that's
Mm.
I didn't deal with it at all. I did not. I just couldn't handle it. Um, by the time week 4 came around and we went to online, I was already feeling like I was behind, and having
Mm.
to try and study from home, like you actually hit the nail right on the head. Not having a separation of work and well, study and home life was terrible for me.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, the other big thing too was, and this isn't a disrespect to any of the lecturers that have done their best with it, but if I was going to be paying the amount of money we're paying to go to uni to watch YouTube videos, I would just be watching YouTube videos. So that's what a lot of the lectures felt like, and I couldn't break that mental idea that what I'm doing is watching a video for my education, and that was really, really hard for me to focus on the content.
Mm.
And like it's really weird to say because with my depression and my anxiety, all I do is focus on things, mostly negative ones. But the way I was focusing, I wasn't able to focus on anything because nothing was holding my interest for long enough because I couldn't commit to that. Like I was trying to attend Martin's past sessions online for Calculus 2, and we all know how Martin and I interact, and he couldn't get me to focus. Like I literally just
Mm.
sat there listening to and bantering with him when I could because that was what I did. But I couldn't like when if he turned to me and actually asked me, "Do you know what you're doing with this content?" I'd just look at him and go, "No, I don't." And it made me feel like shit
Mm.
constantly. And because this was all happening with Census State, I didn't know whether I could wanted to withdraw or not, or whether I wanted to keep trying. And what ended up really happening was by the time week 10 came around, I was still struggling on week 4 content. Um, we had a mid-trimester exam for, and I've mentioned him a few times, but Tim was doing it, and anyone that was in that course with me, it was linear algebra and differential equations, second year course. Tim literally, like, I had a Teams meeting with him just to be like, I don't know what to do. And he was like, look, you have this mid-trimester exam. I think this was actually in week 9, but point is,
But mid trimester.
I don't remember what week it was because this whole thing was a mess for me. But basically, the announcement was made that the exam was happening, and I was like, Tim, I need to talk to you about this then. And we sat there, and I chatted to him for like an hour and a half, just telling him what was going on with me, and he just said, look, you're already feeling shit about yourself. Do not sit this exam because you will not come out of this exam feeling good about yourself. You will look at it and go, I don't understand any of it, and you will feel worse. Um, Calculus 2, I was going through the same thing. Yuri, who, as I've mentioned in other podcasts, like Tim and Yuri are two of my favorite humans and lecturers on the planet. And Yuri sat there and listened to me for 2 seconds of what I was saying and could hear and see it on my face, and it was just like, don't. You need to look after you. I
Mm.
know he knew about my mental health issues. Tim knew about my mental health issues, but Yuri in a second was just like, you need to look after you because this isn't worth you destroying yourself over. And I think it was the fact that I had these two amazing lecturers and course conveners behind me. And I'm saying this because at the very least, if anyone is struggling right now, talk to your course conveners, talk to your program directors, because we are all humans. We are all going through this, and they will do and advise you to make the best choices that you can in the situation that is being presented to us. Because neither of them, for a second, were worried to tell me, no, just drop the course. Like, Yuri actually turned to me and said, drop the course because I know you're dropping it because of you, not because of something
Mm.
I'm doing, and that means a lot to me. I know that if you could do this, you would be here. But drop the course. I don't want you in my course if it's going to kill you.
Mm,
And that's how it felt, that these things were going to kill me, because
mm,
that's what my anxiety and my depression were pushing onto me, that if I didn't succeed at uni now, kind of like you had to with that ultimatum you made yourself, Shay, and that's, if I can't do this now, when am I ever going to do it? And
mm,
it took a lot of people turning around and telling me, this is a global pandemic, this isn't just you. And that's the other
mm,
thing to take into account, like what you're going through, what anyone's going through, somebody else somewhere on this, I want to say godforsaken, but that's a bit too. But somebody on this damn planet has gone through that. So even if you have to go into an online chat room and just be like, guys, I don't know what I'm doing with my life, and these are the reasons why, somebody in there, you'll probably get 90% trolls, so I don't actually recommend doing it. But somebody in there might go, hey, your experience is really similar to mine, and they might be able to talk you through it. Like, again, not advising go onto random chat rooms and do this, but the point of the matter is that life can suck. And
mm,
one
mm,
of the big things that we, and this is why I said this is a very, like Martin said it, I said it into all my groups this week, but this is a real chat about how life can actually affect your uni studies, and not just your uni studies, life can affect your life. And
Yep.
it's gonna suck. And you need to stop sometimes, Martin, and look at yourself and go, am I driving myself into the ground for the right reasons? I know that he will argue yes, he is at the moment, because he's that close to finishing his degree, and I won't argue with him about it on this. But
So close. So close.
so close. But like, I'm not afraid, and I told physics students this trimester, like, this, because I just happened to be there. There's a physics pass in one of the rooms right after my math pass, and some of the students stay, and I literally told them, like, I dropped out of my physics major and picked up a commerce degree because I knew after one trimester of physics I couldn't feel like that for the next 3 years. So, and that was at the end of the course. I paid for it and almost failed that course when
mm,
the signs were there in week 4 that I probably shouldn't have continued with it.
mm.
Honestly, half the reason I did was because Yvonne was such an awesome lecturer, but that's me plugging my lecturers again. Um,
It's really tough having to be honest and check in with yourself.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of us, and I know that even I've really had to think this trimester about whether it's worth dropping a course or not. Um, it's it is a really tough decision because sometimes it almost feels like admitting defeat and
Yes.
being like, you know what, oh, I can't achieve everything. But there is so much going on, and we've got to constantly keep perspective that this degree is not doesn't define you or whether your success or whether you're a worthy person, and the degree's not going anywhere, you know, unless you're on the ninth degree of having worked in this degree. Then yeah, time is ticking a little bit, but you know, we get 10 years to finish a degree. That should be ample time for us to go through a struggle, take breaks, do what we need to do to balance life alongside our degrees. These degrees aren't the end all and be all, and if it feels like that, it might be worth readjusting where you place all your value in your life, because a degree itself should not define you and your worthiness and whether you're um, great or not doing good enough, you know. It's not a race. It's
yeah,
definitely not a race.
like I'll be honest, like, because of all that Corona stuff last year, my second year was a non-year. I'm a third year uni
Mm,
student doing my second year because I did not have a second year. And a lot of people that have come through, like their first year was last year, or people starting now where things
mm,
are still so uncertainty, still in a state of uncertainty, like, it may not feel like a real year still. but
Mm,
get out of it what you can, even if it is
mm,
just one course, or
mm,
getting to a point and going, it's none of these courses because I can't commit to it. I can't focus on it. Like it
mm.
took so much for me to be like, I have to drop these. Like I basically asked my therapist for permission, and he's like, why are you asking me for permission? You need to do this for yourself. Um, I will write the letter that you need, and this is the other thing too, and it's a call back to what you were saying, Shay. If you are having these bigger struggles, there is a way of withdrawing without suffering any academic penalties. Like, what was the exact term of it? Sorry, Shay.
So this one, withdrawal after census date due to special circumstance. Wait, I
Special
always mess it up.
circumstances.
Yeah, yeah. So it's very similar in applications for things like deferred assessment, where you need to be suffering from, an illness or, those same circumstances and documentation that you would supply for that, except this is for withdrawing. But the real catch with it is that in order for your application to be deemed successful, you have to, it can't be the exact same circumstances you're experiencing before census date. So if you know you're in a tough position and you don't withdraw, you may not be able to do this application, because what they deem this application for is either your conditions have worsened or there were things beyond your control that happened and kind of spiraled out of control. So there is a catch with it. But I think that's generally what happens when people get to that point. You're still in week 4, you're like, you know what, I'm struggling, but I think I can get back on top. But then things do pick up and life gets more hectic, and that's generally what happens. So it is still there, it is still a backup. Don't feel like it might not be there for you. And at the end of the day, I tell all my boat mentees and literally everyone I come across, I say, put in the application. What's the worst that's going to happen? It doesn't get put through. All right. Well, we were exactly where we were, but there's always a chance that it could be approved, and you won't know until you actually put it in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't even know it existed until the amazing Jackie told me about it when I was talking to her about. Because last year one of the things I was because when I was withdrawing from all my courses, I'm like, I messaged Jackie and I'm like, I'm not gonna be enrolled anymore, so can I still be a pass
Mm.
leader? And God love her, here I go, God forsaken now, God love her. She was just like, well, I'm not having you. Like, you pass is going to be continuously good for you because it keeps you engaged with uni life, even though you're not
Mm.
enrolled in anything. And like, because this was still my first first trimester being a leader, and she was like, and everything I've seen from you as a leader, you deserve to be here leading. So even if you're just a mentee with George, shout out to George being the awesome guy that he is, or a second leader, because second leaders was something we implemented for the online sessions. Like, even if you're just a second leader, so you won't do any of the prep or any of that, and that'll take the stress off you having to be there. Like, all you got to do is show up. And George will be the first person to tell you, like, there were some sessions, there were early morning sessions that I just slept through because my depression was kicking my ass and I just couldn't get out of bed. Or I would stay up all night overthinking every single issue in the world and couldn't get to sleep. And so if I didn't show up for a session, him and both him and Kaylee didn't expect the unexpected with me because they both knew what I was going through, and if I didn't show up, they were fully ready to just run the session without a second leader. And both of them are strong and amazing leaders in of themselves. I'm so sorry that we don't have George because he damn well graduated. Um, but those guys really not only had my back, but were like, if you can't be there, don't be there. It's fine. We will just we'll take care of it. And having that support, not just of other past leaders, but of these guys and girls that I consider friends, was just amazing. um, And then I did sort of talk about it before, but how this lockdown has now affected me. Like it brought back that PTSD, that deja vu. But one of the big things, and this only really hit Martin yesterday as well, uh, but we won't be able to have some of our past students at our face-to-face calculus pass tomorrow. And one of those people is the amazing Mackenzie that we've mentioned, and it's her birthday tomorrow. And we're going to be missing seeing her for her birthday, and it's absolutely killing both me and Martin because she's our little pass baby. And that sounded really, really creepy, but anyway, we're moving past that.
It was really awful because I've known for a few months now when her birthday is, and I knew last week that her birthday was this week. I knew on Monday that her birthday was on Thursday, and it was always there. Like I knew when her birthday was, and it didn't process that. No, she's not going to be there tomorrow because of the lockdown. So that was something that it was literally late at night yesterday, just because my head was so in what I was doing in my work that I was literally working last night, and then it was just it literally was just a pencil drop moment where I was working, and then I was like, shit, she's not able to come down, and that was another thing on top where I was just like, this is not great, this is not good, this sucks, and that's just been another like rough thing on top that we've had to deal with as well. So
I'm not looking at the chat right now, but I'm just going to throw it out there. Mackenzie, stop crying.
Special birthday shout out to Mackenzie for
Special,
tomorrow.
yeah. She is our April Fool. She is our past April Fool. She is a fool and an April baby, but she's our girl, and we just wanted to wish her a very special happy birthday towards the end of this PASSCast because it's been going for quite a while now. So, Martin, do we have any questions, or do people just want us to shut up and go away now?
Well, I'll open it up to questions. So if anyone would like to ask Shai any questions about anything, for the next couple minutes, we'll open the floor. Clearly, you can tell she's had a wealth of experiences. Not all good, not all bad either. But she certainly has come a long way, and we're very proud to have Shai as our fun little Nathan Pass leader as well. So please, any questions for her, feel free to ask, and we'll pass it on.
And if you have any questions for me or Martin, you can also ask them too. But
But
we're
see
here
us
every week, whereas Shay's only here this week. So maybe prioritize the Shay questions. But yes, you can ask Martin and I things too.
I think just if anyone does have questions
go
while
for
we
it.
wait, I think another thing I'll just mention is beyond just, setting my own tiny little academic goals for myself, another thing that's really helped retain me throughout my degree is saying yes to more opportunities within the university. The first big one was PASS, and that really got the ball rolling because Jackie opens doors for everyone.
100%
She has
does.
all of our best interests in mind, and when something comes up that she's like, that would be perfect for this person, she is the first person to recommend us. So she has opened so many doors for me, and being a past leader has allowed me to form some really wonderful friendships with some of the academic staff as well. And it's just constantly leading to more and more opportunities. Once you start putting your name in people's mouth a little bit, you kind of come to mind. So I think that's been something that I never thought I would do. I never saw myself, walking around the university and being like, hey, to like all these random people. But that's really been what has also helped keep me here, is feeling like I am part of a community where I am valued and I belong and I contribute something worthwhile. And yeah, I think I would always encourage someone to really kind of push themselves to be uncomfortable, because every time you do that, the world gets just a little bit bigger in what you can do. And I'm doing things constantly that 3 years ago I would have collapsed and died at the thought of. So, um, yeah, I think I would also just always encourage people to really continue pushing themselves.
Hmm. So we do have 2 questions. So the first
Hmm.
one will go right for you, Shay. So what is your best online study tip?
That's a tough one. In the past year, I started doing this thing where I study, and it's really, really annoying for everyone else who has to experience it. But I always have like this little whiteboard with me and some whiteboard markers.
Hmm.
And after a lecture, I basically reteach it to my
Ah.
non-existent audience and literally speaking out loud, drawing, every way that I can really engage my brain into digesting the information. And that has been life changing. It's annoying. It's so annoying. um, but I just make sure I lock myself up somewhere in a room, or if I'm lucky, there's someone who wants to study with me and do the same. But that has definitely been my the big change for me, and it saved me so much time because you can really quickly pick up where you're not grasping concepts,
Hmm.
and you can go back and review and add to it and really push yourself to go until you're just like
I
so
love that.
that's my biggest one.
And then that's great actually. That's so niche. That's such a really cool. I can
Very
just
different.
I can just imagine you just walking around campus with a little whiteboard, just teaching Casper.
It's awkward to watch from afar. I definitely look like someone who's a bit few screws loose, definitely.
I think all of us have a few of them loose, just different places.
I'm with friends.
And then I really like this question. So Nicholas says top 3 tips for avoiding burnout. So we might go one each. So I'll start with you, Daniel, this time. What's your tip for avoiding burnout?
I mean, mine might be very specific, but have a puppy. Um, but that's more along the lines of have a way of having an outlet. So I have like my video games, my infamous quote of being distracted by pretty girls on the internet, and there's puppies. There's like just make sure you have something that you can just be like, you know what, I need to disconnect from study right now, and you just go and do that. Like whether like because to go see my puppy, I have to organize it with my mother because the puppy lives with my mum. So I have to call her and organize it. So for me, it's basically like clockwork. Every second weekend on a Sunday, I will go see the lovely and amazing puppy dog Bella, and she will be excited to see me, so much so that last time she peed on me because she was so excited that like I started patting her and she just pissed on me, and it was amazing but also disgusting. Um, but like just have that thing where you're like, this is the day I know that I disconnect from everything
Mm,
else.
mm,
It's really important to be able to have allocated you time, and yeah,
I
that's
think
that's all
mm,
I will say on that.
I think for me, mine would probably be to recognize your limits. This is something I will say. I
mm,
say a lot more
mm.
than I actually practice, but
I
and yeah, I can
I think
see.
both of you are guilty
Yeah,
here. It
yeah,
looks like.
we're both quite guilty of this one, but you know, I'm one of those people. Jackie likes to joke about me having, many hats, so that's now a fun little thing. I just imagine myself with many hats because I do so many different things. Um, but uh, I've always thought that I can do all these things and I can do them very easily.
Mm,
You
mm,
until you can't. That's the thing. Like you can do them until you can't, and I've started to, I guess, identify where my limit is and trying to take a step back where I have to. And
mm,
I was quite, I guess, not really proud of myself, but I was a bit content, say, in try 3 when I kind of took a little bit of a step back from pass and I didn't. I could have facilitated sessions, but I wanted to take a break and do a bit of a reset, and I did. And I was still around because I just can't give it up fully, but I didn't want to have all the same sort of effort. So I had Daniel more or less helping me, and he was trying to take over my role there, so that was super useful. But it was the first time
Took his
where
job.
it was the first time where I really kind of recognized that I do have limits, and I need to recognize those, and I need to act on them, to make sure that I don't burn out, because I have burnt out before, and it's not an exciting feeling. So I had to do that and recognize it, and that's, well, now I feel like I'm not in a perfect place. I still have struggles and everything, but I'm in a better place than I was because I'm at least recognizing where the issue is.
I have a funny, guilty story about Martin's limits there too, but we'll listen to Shay's last tip.
I just want to say also with that, Martin, I read a quote, I think it was even today, must be if I still remember it. It was for every yes we say no to something else. And I think that's so true with taking on commitments at university. For every yes we keep adding on, something's got to give.
Yep.
Something gets a little bit less of us, and we really got to prioritize who gets the most.
Yep.
That's been something I've also really been working on. But I think my tip, and it's kind of boring, but what really got me through last year was having a really healthy sleep schedule. I
Oh, I
think
love that.
making sure that I sleep 8 hours every night was the only way I could wake up and actually function the next day. Every time that I try and work on 4 or 5 hours of sleep, I basically render myself useless for the entire day. So setting that schedule, as difficult as it is, believe me, I love going to sleep at 2 a.m. It just feels right. But it's going to make me absolutely useless. And by the time I wake up, half the day's gone. It just doesn't work. So forcing myself to have that self-discipline of going to bed at 10 o'clock, waking up at 6, having hours in the morning to myself, forming that routine, like I said earlier, was really the only thing that got me through last year.
Yeah.
Consistency is kind of what I needed.
That's great. No, I definitely agree. And I'm going to cut Daniel off here before he gives us another guilty story, and I'm going to wrap up the PASSCast for today. Sorry, Daniel.
No. I'm going to quickly tell it. So, Martin wasn't actually going to be a pass leader in Try 2. He wanted to take that off. That was when he was like, I've hit my limits and I don't want to lead in Try 2. Then, because of everything that happened with me in Try 1, Jackie kind of voluntold him, because she told me that I was running sessions with Martin and it would be great. And then I was like, oh, cool, Martin, we'll be running sessions together. And he's like, Jackie hasn't said anything to me about this. And I'm like, oh, okay. That's awkward. Because he was like, I fully want to take the trimester off. And I'm not sure, Martin, but how did trimester 2 last year go?
It was a roller coaster, but it was a fantastic roller coaster. Like, no, I'm definitely I'm very glad that I actually did do it.
I believe you might have said the line along best trimester of taking pass ever.
Yeah, well, best online trimester, I suppose, because
Oh, yeah. Now you're getting the technicalities out.
but no, it was really good because I learnt a lot for starters. I made a lot of new friends. I was able to connect with students in a different way, and I think Daniel and I we realized that working together, we really click working together because we've got such different personalities, but they just joined together very well. So we had such good attendance, such good sessions because we had that cohesion with one another. So I thoroughly enjoyed it, and yeah, it turned something where I was a bit hesitant as to what I wanted to do into something that worked out really well for me, and I was quite glad that I did end up doing it. And now we're back in person, and Daniel's in pretty much all my sessions as a student. Actually, tomorrow he's going to be observing me, so it's going to be quite interesting to see. I just want on the record that whatever he says tomorrow to me, disregard completely. Like Jackie, when
I
you
have
read
all the power.
when you read his observation, Jackie, and you do your little like flick through of what's going on, disregard everything. There's nothing.
I'm going to publish it on Teams, not
Oh.
just on Pebble Pad. I'm going to publish it on Teams so everyone sees what I have to say about you.
It's gonna be blocked.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. And
You'll be redacted.
I guess that's the perfect way to end this PASSCast on a little bit of a happier note. So with that being said, yes, Courtney, he did steal your observation. With that being said, Shai, I wanted to thank you once again for coming. It was a really good, productive session, I feel. I think I learned a lot about you that I hadn't known. I had a general idea, but I didn't know quite the extent of your journey. So it was really quite interesting, and I'm sure Daniel will say the same. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me on, guys. I know we had quite a lengthy one today, but going into study week, I'm sure everyone has 2 hours
Yep.
to spare. So thank you so much. I really hope that someone even got a little something from today.
They definitely would.
And that's the main thing. Like this again, like our past mentality. This wasn't about us. We told these stories and wanted Shay here, and Martin and I shared our bits and pieces because it's important for everyone. Like we aren't just these immortal beings of awesomeness that we think we are as humans. We are actually flawed and frail, kind of worthless at times people, and that's okay too, because that's who we are as humans. And we may look like we've got all our shit together, but
Definitely not.
I think I can't see Martin's camera, but I think we're all shaking
Yep.
our head, going, "No, we
No
do
way.
not have our shit together at all." So, like, if we show up to a pass session, everything looks like it's running really well. Just maybe think to yourself, what went through the process of this creation? Because
It's a mess back there.
yeah, that like there's probably going to be a lot of tears in the background that you don't know about, or screaming at PowerPoint, or don't even get me started on Kahoot. But I love Kahoot. I love playing Kahoot, but making Kahoot can go right off.
On that note, I'm going to be a
On
good
that note.
pass leader, and I'm going to do our hook for next week. But next week is actually going to be in week 6. So next week we've got off. We've got the Easter break. Then week 5, and then in week 6 we will have another episode where we're going to be talking about adversity. So particularly, we're going to focus on adversity in terms of disability, in terms of struggles, in terms of those sorts of places within university and how you can fit in within a university with that. And Daniel, would you like to reveal our guest for that episode, because she's also had quite an
I don't
interesting...
know. She's a bit upset with me for stealing her observation.
She is upset
at
with
the
you.
moment. So we will have
Maybe
the
I have
lovely
to.
and amazing Courtney will be joining us, which will make the number of guests we've had from Nathan equal 4, as opposed to Gold Coast, where you've just been stuck with Martin and I. So, for all of you that are from Nathan, you're getting to know some pass leaders that you've interacted with. For all of you students from Gold Coast, you're getting to interact with some leaders you may have never met before. And then for everyone else, you're just sort of stuck with the Martin and Daniel show. So
yeah, that's pretty much it. But yes, we will be having Courtney, and we're super excited because, she has a lot to share about her story too. Much like Shai, they both have very unique and interesting short stories and, adversity that they've had to overcome. So we're very interested in that. So we'll have a bit of a hiatus. We've got 2 weeks off now, and then PASSCast will return in week 6 with Courtney. So
one other question though, Martin, just to end out the thing. Revealing something about the mustache.
We might. We'll see how we go. But
yeah,
I'm going to keep
promised
everyone on
people
the
announcement would be made in week 6.
We're keeping everyone on their toes with it. We'll see what happens.
Will Daniel finally get his wish and Martin lose the moustache?
Yes,
Will
tune
Martin
in.
finally get his wish that Daniel will accept the moustache?
Mhm.
Find out in week 6.
So with that, on behalf of Daniel, myself, and Shay, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll look forward to seeing you in week 6. We hope you have a really good night. Enjoy your last day before the break tomorrow, and we will see you guys later. Bye-bye.